Hello and welcome to Juggling Hats and Homes. My name is Harry Truman and this is
I'm Alex Tan.
a podcast for letting agents, estate agents, and a little bit of juggling parenthood in between. So this is podcast number 3. So if you're still with us, thank you very much. You're still listening. And you're here. So we're going to do the same format that we've done before. So we're going to talk a little bit about lettings, a little bit about estate agency, and then we're going to talk about some other things that have been going on in the world that are to do with women or parenthood or family, all of that kind of stuff. That's how this podcast goes. So first of all, over to you, Alex. Give us an update. What has been happening in the world, the wonderful world of estate agency over the last few weeks?
Oh, that's the thing, Harry. I can't believe we're coming to the end of March and Q1 already. Where has the time gone? I know we always say how quickly the year goes, but it really does feel like we've only just come back after Christmas. It is mental. So it's been a really interesting start for the sales side. I think that in terms of activity and what we're seeing, the appetite in the market has been a lot more positive. In fact, when according to Rightmove, we are 13% up in terms of actually sales agreed than we were last year, which is fantastic, and we're definitely feeling that and experiencing that within Andrews. However, when you look at the average days of actually trying to find a buyer, it's the longest stint since 2019, so 71 days to actually find a buyer, and that's probably down to a lot of overvaluing. So that's a massive issue that we're still experiencing across the industry when agents are going out to vendors and telling them what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. So we are, not us necessarily as Andrews, but agents are creating this, I would say, that when they are priced right, they are selling very well and very quickly. We're seeing a lot more open houses and best and final offers, which we have not seen in a long time, which is incredible. So we really needed that, especially with the disappointment that was the spring budget. We didn't really see anything come for that from anybody in the industry, really, Harry, W, from sales and lettings, which was really frustrating. It was a perfect opportunity. And then we've just had the Bank of England hold the base rate at 5.25% again. So it feels a bit like, come on, give us something to help G up and steer the market and really G up that activity. So it's been frustrating, but still we are seeing, some good activity within the sales market. So I can't complain, but it would be really nice that we have something around the corner. We've got elections on the horizon as well, so it would have been nice to have some support. But you know what, we crack on. But I would just say it would be good if agents do price more realistically. We've got more of a chance of being able to get those sales agreed at a quicker rate. So that's the rundown in terms of what we're experiencing at the moment in agency.
So a fair amount of positivity there, I'd say,
Yeah.
but no unicorn. I know that's what you were looking for, wasn't it?
Absolutely no unicorn. He was right, the man that said that. So no stamp duty changes at all.
What about the base rate last week? I was really hoping that they would reduce it. I was actually quite surprised that we had another hold. What did you think about that?
Well, that's the thing. It was like 8-1. So it was the first time nobody wanted a rise. So I was like, okay, we're moving in the right direction. So only one of the 8 actually said that they wanted to reduce to 5%. So like you, Harry, I was really disappointed. I thought, come on, this is our moment after the backlash of the spring budget. It's like, give us something. And everybody was really positive, thinking, oh, it just shows that the market's stable. And I was like, yeah, it does. That's great. But come on, help us out. Do something. So I was as disappointed as you, Harry. I was like, I was hoping for it, and no joy.
No joy. All right. Well, I mean, so interestingly, your better sales market is great for you, but actually it's a slight negative for lettings, because it means that landlords who were thinking of selling and were perhaps holding off a bit because the sales market wasn't so good, now that we're seeing a little bit more activity in that, we're definitely seeing more landlords start to think about that again, whereas landlords were sort of having to either give it back to lettings because it couldn't sell, or they were sort of holding off and they were saying, okay, fix again for another renewal. I'll perhaps look to sell in the future. We're starting to see them go, okay, things are getting a bit better now on the sales market. Let me think about putting that up for sale. So yeah, a little bit of a change, I guess, for lettings for landlords. We still see obviously a reduction in the amount of landlords buying because mortgage rates are still so high. So it's only really cash buyers that are coming in as landlords. But yeah, I think for us, where the sales market starts to do well, it tends to always hit lettings a little bit, which is a shame.
Sorry.
But on we move.
We're road it, Harry.
Yeah.
You're always smashing it.
Yeah. I think in the world of lettings, we've had a lot of talk lately about two things that are happening a lot in the sort of industry press for lettings. One of them is rental reform. So that is still, you know, rolling on. It's now at the report stage in the House of Commons. There's been various amendments noted by various different stakeholders at this stage. So we've had some changes to rent repayment orders. We've had some changes suggested for decent home standards. We've had a few smaller changes as well, which is fine. But it's still really rumbling on. And there are significant delays that are happening to this. We think perhaps due to some divisions in the Conservative Party about whether the bill has the right balance. And we also think that many of these Conservative MPs who are opposing it are probably landlords as well. So they have a bit of a reason to be opposing that bill. But it does mean that now time is really tight for the bill to receive royal assent before Parliament's dissolved before the next general election. So the next general election needs to be held before January 2025 or the end of January 2025. So, but it's likely to be held probably the end of 2024. So it's looking really tight now whether we're going to get rental reform in for this particular government. And it was a part of the Conservative Party manifesto to get rental reform in. So if they don't get it in, then their opposition's really going to make a big deal of that and sort of make it out to be that they couldn't do it anyway. But it also means if it doesn't get in and then Labour get in the next general election, we're going to see a total overhaul of what rental reform is. And it'll probably look totally different and probably with a Labour government be a lot stricter for landlords, which will be a shame. So it's almost a bit of better the devil you know than you don't. I hear a lot of people calling just to get it in now as it is, just because we know what it looks like at the moment. But yeah, it's still rumbling on, unfortunately, rental reform, and it's not going away yet. The other thing is that RoPA, I keep seeing RoPA being talked about a lot at the moment. There was literally an article today in a state agency today about Lord Best saying that it's not going to break the bank, RoPA, for agents. And I see a lot of chat about it on forums with so many agents saying that it's a good thing. And I think maybe it's because of my circle of sort of friends. We're all qualified agents, a lot of us execs or on presidential team like me. So of course we're going to be really pushing for that sort of regulation. But I also see a lot of people who are quite negative about RoPA, who are quite they see it as a bad thing for our industry. And I really don't understand why. I think regulation for our industry can only be a good thing if you're setting a sort of benchmark of how everyone should, the level of knowledge they should have, and therefore the level of service they deliver is going to, you know, be equal to that because they're going to be knowing what they're doing. I think it can only be good for us, can't it? So, yeah, I mean, so what are your thoughts on RoPA, Alex?
Then what were the negative comments? Because I'm the same as you, really, Harry, in terms of those comments and people saying that would be a negative thing to.
So we get a lot of things like, especially about Property Mark, they're trying to monopolise on this. They're trying to make sure that they're the provider of choice to do this, and therefore that's going to make fees go up for members. So we get a lot of that. That happens a lot. We also then get a lot of agents who've been agents for a long time and they're not qualified. And they're basically coming at it from the viewpoint, I think, of like fear of they're worried about taking those exams, and they come at it from the viewpoint of like, well, I've been an agent for 30 years. Why should I have to do an exam to prove what I know? And I just think it's a bit silly, really, because you don't know what you don't know. The amount of stuff I learned when I did my level 3 and then my level 4 was huge. And actually, because you revise so much for those exams, I've probably forgotten loads of it already. It's like your driving test, isn't it? Like when you pass your driving test, you're an amazing driver. Fast forward 5-10 years, you probably couldn't pass it again because you're probably rubbish by then. So it's
true. So
yeah,
true.
for me, it's all about continuous learning. Institutions should be feared, really. I think they should be embraced.
I totally agree. I'm very pro. I'd like to be able to try and argue against it to have a bit of a debate, but I agree. Again, that's something that we feel very strongly about at Andrews and qualifying, getting ahead of the game and making sure obviously all of our people are qualified. But in terms of our industry and how many rogue operators there are, it can only be a benefit. We literally don't have to have any qualifications to be able to operate as an agency. That it
Yeah.
just seems bizarre. And I think that like you said, knowledge is power, but having that qualification on another level when you're dealing with
Mm.
customers and being able to be taken seriously and try and crush that reputation that so many agents that are called sharks or stakes, that kind of squashes that. And I just think, like you said, it's only beneficial. And I think it's
Yeah.
really good to be able to go through the rigmarole of being able to have the qualifications, because you don't need any licensing or anything. If you look at America, they have to have a license to operate, whereas we don't have anything like that. So
Yeah.
I'm very pro.
I've put a little post out on LinkedIn about it today just to see what people think about it, whether they're pro, whether they're not. And so far it's had, I think 88% or 90% of people said that they're pro it. There's only a couple of people who have said that they don't think it's going to make any difference. One of those being my mum, who's nothing to do with estate agency or lettings. So cheers, mum, for that.
That is
So
brilliant.
yeah, I think it's definitely a great it's a great subject, and I'm really excited that we're hearing more about it. It got sort of pushed under the carpet a little bit for a while,
Yeah,
so it's good that this is happening. We're hearing more and more about this, and hopefully that means that it's getting some traction, and we will get this in soon, because I think it'll be great for our industry.
definitely.
Cool.
Definitely.
So, Alex, you went to the Women in Estate Agents conference the other day. I heard some amazing things about it. The photos looked amazing. So I thought it'd be good for you to maybe just share some of your reflections from it, and why it, some of your maybe your best learning points from it, and why it was amazing.
I think that's the thing. We were there last year, Harry, weren't we?
Yeah.
And it was mind blowing. The first conference for women in estate agency, and I was thinking, how are they going to top this? Because it was monumental and actually voted best conference of the year as well. So again, it was set on very high, standards to be able to make sure that they smashed it, and it was absolutely incredible. And again, it was an array of emotions. Literally, when we're looking through the photos, I said to you the other day, I was so glad there weren't any photos of me ugly crying because it was literally crying. But then there were so many amazing speakers as
How
well, and
long?
so
How
many
much of the
takeaways.
day? How much of the day were you ugly crying? Like percentage?
I
Like
felt like it was
30%?
50. I think it was like 50, it felt like. It was an emotional day, but so many takeaways. And I think that's the beauty of the conference, is that you have some amazing takeaways on so many levels, on a personal but a professional level as well. And that's why I don't think there's any conference quite like it, that you get
Mm,
such a mix. And it was amazing to see so many more men there this year as well.
yeah.
There were definitely a lot more men that were present than there were from the previous, and I think that will only grow and grow as the years go by. And we've already set the date for next year, which is amazing.
Exciting.
But there was just some brilliant speeches. So there was Heather from Street, and she
Yeah.
was talking about culture, and there were so many takeaways in terms of being able to actually drive and motivate your teams and having the best people in your business, which was really powerful. Thoroughly
Mm.
enjoyed that. But then we had a lot of people talking about their own personal experiences. Again, there were so many different elements of the day. I was drained, Harry, in a really good way. Just so much to take in and so much emotion, but it was absolutely fantastic. And I think that was the thing. And it was such an intense week really, because we had International Women's Day, we
Yeah.
had the Women Estate Agency Conference, we had Mother's Day, we had World Book Day,
Oh,
everything.
intense.
It was intense. It was intense. What did
So,
you think in terms of International Women's Day?
well, yeah, because that was the day after, wasn't it?
Yeah.
After the conference. So, yeah, I think it's a hard one for me on International Women's Day, because I uh, I see a lot of businesses and people posting online about International Women's Day, and I think that's great. I think that we need to get as much sort of it out there as much as possible. We need to talk about it, but I don't always think that the companies that are posting about it, they really know what it means, and they don't necessarily sort of live by it the rest of the year. They just sort of put it up as like a token, like it might as well be Happy Pancake Day, you know, it doesn't really mean anything to them. And they put a post up and they say, have a great happy International Women's Day, have a great day. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does it mean? It's not Christmas. You're not wishing me a Merry Christmas. Like what does that mean? And I think I just get a bit frustrated with that, with sort of people putting it out there and not really living by that the rest of the year. And I think since I've joined a company like Andrews, who we really do actually think about that for the whole year. You know, we have our Women in Property group, we meet regularly, we hosted an event on International Women's Day, which was actually, it wasn't just a let's have a cake and say we've got some amazing women. It was actually, let's do an online event where everyone in the business can join and they can actually learn from senior women in the business and the roles that they've done and how they've got to where they are, and actually a man who's experienced changes in a really male dominated environment and how that environment changed to be more gender balanced. I think that our teams could really take stuff from that and actually left them thinking about the impact that an imbalance in gender in an organization can have. So yeah, I think when I think about working for Andrews and how we're very different in that respect, and then I see other companies posting about it and they're just not really genuine, it just makes me a bit cross, that's all. So yeah, what about you? What do you think?
It was great. I love the fact that it's
Sorry,
like, let's celebrate. No, I loved it. Let's celebrate and have a cake for International Women's Day, but not do it any other day of the year. I agree. I think it's baffling, really, because it's like, oh, social media calendar, you know, again, in terms of what's on there, oh, International Women's Day, and people would just do it for the sake of it. And like you said, but not really live and breathe it. And it's just sad that we have to have a day for women, because again, I know we're obviously trying to make sure that there's equity and there's everybody's included and everything, but still, I think there are so many companies that you see LinkedIn go crazy, don't you, in terms of what we're doing and shouting about it. But it's just, again, being able to look at those posts and think how sincere they are. So what are you doing? What's your gender pay gap like? What do you do to support your women in your business day to day, never mind on one day in March? What does that look like in reality? And I think that's the thing. It's a strange concept, and I think over the years I've been a bit more cynical about it. Before I was like, yeah, it's International Women's Day, whereas now I do look at it very differently, just because, like you said, when you look at everything and organizations and the actions that they take, and I think that, you know, prove it, show us in terms of the actual women that are there, the positions that they're in and what they're doing and opportunities. I think for me, that's what it's about, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I guess I feel like whenever I see those posts on International Women's Day from businesses, I feel like commenting back and being like, okay, that's all well and good, but tell me what you're doing about the rest of the year. Like, how are you supporting women in the business the rest of the year? You know, are you considering some issues that really only affect women that actually are really important? How are you going about that? You know, how are you looking at your maternity policy and your menopause policy, and you know, are you providing, I don't know, menstruation products in your office toilets? Like, how are you supporting women the rest of the year? Because I bet you there would be a very different response if people commented those sorts of things on those posts. So
let's do it, Harry.
Yeah,
watch out. Watch out, everybody.
We'll just get like a token reply asking all those things, or just every single word we'll just comment back, like, tell me what you're doing about this. What are you doing about this?
I'm here for it. I am here for it.
Oh. Okay, well, anything else you want to chat about today, Alex?
Not really. I think that it's just been such a whirlwind of a year and so much going on. And I do think that, like you said, from our perspective as women and parents, that we are making obviously the right moves with what we're doing at Andrews, which is great. And I think that is really important. But I don't know, I think it's just tough, isn't it? It's just still balancing, and like you said, that's why we're juggling hats and homes, because it is tough. I think, and I don't think it can be underestimated in terms of what everybody does. And I think, but what we try and establish is being able to, as you mentioned at the very beginning of when we started this podcast, is parenthood. It's not just mothers, it is on the other side as well, and finding that balance, definitely, because it is tough, it's draining.
It is a balance, isn't it? It's a balance between, you know, both partners making sure that we're all pulling our weight, that it is being a parent is really hard. Like, kids are mental, and and it's also, you also want to feel like you give 100% in your job as well. And you know, sometimes you have to deal with things that are happening in your family, and you feel guilty because you can't give 100%. But I think it's just understanding that there's that balance, and that some days you're all work and then maybe less parenting, and then some days you're all parenting and less work. And as long as you can balance them, then
Balances. I think that's the thing, because we've got Easter holidays around
yeah.
the corner, which is always another hurdle that parents have to get through, being able to try and work out, oh my gosh, it's 2 weeks. Luckily, we've got obviously 2 bank holidays, so it's not too bad in terms of childcare and being able to juggle that again. And that's just that we've only just come back from a half term. This is like the shortest term ever. I think it's like 6 weeks. So everybody out there, good luck with everything that you're doing and trying to balance it, because I know what an absolute headache it is.
We can get through
We'll
Easter.
get through it.
You can do it. And if you
We've
can't
got
get
chocolate,
through it,
fine.
if you can't get through it, then just put your kids' Easter eggs in a secret cupboard and eat them on the sly, which is what I do, because he gets loads. He doesn't need all that chocolate. I do.
That's such a good idea. Absolutely. And bribery. Anybody that is a parent that doesn't use bribery, I commend you. That's what parenthood is based on for me.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly.
Teddy already knows that if he wakes us up in the night this week, then the Easter Bunny's not going to bring him chocolate. So
that's much nicer. Well, exactly. Yeah. I love that. I'm going to use that.
All right. Well, days. Have a great Easter break, Alex. Thanks for chatting with me.
Happy Easter, Harry.
And thanks all our listeners. See you again soon. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.